Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Market Trade Group, and today is Thursday, July 22nd. Kind of feels like a Friday a little bit today, doesn't it? Been a long week of trading. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through here is for information or education purposes only. If the video is a little bit blurry, it's because YouTube does take a little while to render the high definition version of the video, so just be patient with it. So this was more of a growth versus a growth outperformance versus value day, and not particularly great breadth. You could see that to the left of my screen. You could see that NYSE was basically negative all day. It did improve a little bit over the session. NASDAQ was even negative, and ARCA was the only one that was positive. We adjust that for volume. And if you want to look at these numbers in terms of overall market breadth, you could see, just to see what the raw numbers were, evenly split down the middle, 14-15 advancers versus decliners in the Dow. You did have 17, surprisingly, you had 17 new 4-week highs. That's kind of odd considering that there was more declining names. That's 17 names. Well, I guess you had 14 advancers, and maybe some of them at some point were up in the day. S&P had 306 declining names, 197 advancing names. NASDAQ had 2,100 declining names, 800 advancing names, and that really was due to small caps. Small caps got pretty beaten up today. So again, they continue to be the wild card. We could kind of go there first, and then we'll go over some of these interesting earnings reports that happened after the close. But just like we went over in yesterday's video, we talked about this 80% rule was complete. You got a real nice move in the small caps. And I said, basically I wouldn't be surprised if that was as far as they went for now, right back in the middle of this range. And we'll kind of see what we've got. We are below value for the month, and we're decently below value for the month. And again, going back to this 1 hour chart, we're almost right in the middle of the value area. Again, the point of control, the dotted line, is where you see the most volume from last week, right? But you could see it's a sticking point. We're basically right around there. And again, top of value was a great place, as we discussed in yesterday's video, to take profits in the IWM. Again, made a complete 80% roll. And now this week, basically range bound. Let's talk just about the indices really quick, even though, like I said, I don't think it was too much about the indices today. Nice move here in the after hours market on the back of the earnings, and we're almost all the way through the value areas. SPY finished up 20 basis points, but you could see S&P futures are rallying a little bit after the move. Regardless, 23.75 is your resistance for the week. Almost right, but we're essentially back to where we were at the at the end of last week, and just you got to chuckle a little bit. Round and round we go. NASDAQ, you could see, is out to new highs on those results. The Qs did outperform, but yeah, they're going to be out just like that, right? Really nice test of the 20-day moving average, and out to new highs in the with considering the price action in the after hours market. So there you go. And again, without the after hours market, you could see that the Dow numbers, excuse me, not the Dow, the NASDAQ did lead for the day. Or I'll blow this up a little bit so that you could see the numbers. You could see the internet stock. There wasn't anything that really rallied. There wasn't one sector that rallied over 1% from the open, but you could see that the internet stocks, the home builders, had some nice movement after the open too, even though they still finished down for the day. And software names. So again, I didn't see too many people complaining too much about today's price action because most of Twitter is long growth names, not value names. The value names really got kind of beat up a bit. Clean energy is not necessarily value, that's growth, but all the energy names got hit today. So again, just continues to be, I think, a very difficult group. One of the things that I've been saying in some of these videos this week is that these beaten up areas got a nice bounce, right? But then what? That's always the case in my opinion, right? I know some traders, who are more fundamental traders versus technical traders, like to what's this headline? Sorry, there's a headline about BlackRock and Canaccord. So just wanted to see what that was. But that's always the case to me, and I never really understood that. Some traders, unless they're really fast traders, right? If they think that something is cheap, they're like, oh, energy has really come down a lot. I'm going to buy some on the cheap. Well, once you get that bounce, are you selling into the bounce? Because a lot of times what happens is you get the bounce and then it kind of resumes it just makes it very hard for it to kind of recoup, like to have a quick V recovery. So if you nailed the bottom in some of this stuff and some of the value names this week, and you got the bounce, that's a question, I guess, because I don't do a lot of that. I kind of stick to where I see really good setups. Every once in a while, I will do a little bit of dip buying and just for a quick trade. But, I think it makes it very challenging, right? Because even if, I see that a bunch on Twitter too, right? Oh, it's cheap. This is down too much. Okay, well, after you buy it, are you out in 2 days? Because like I said, it doesn't, a lot of these names will bounce, but then they'll chop around here for a little while, right? We certainly have seen that with names like, Caterpillar, right? Once Caterpillar broke this trend, right? And I'm still watching this one as well as Deere, which looks a little bit better. But once these things break trend, they can bounce, right? You had a bounce from 206 to 220, right? And you may have thought that this was a great buying opportunity, but look at it. It's back to where the low is. So again, it's just one of those lessons that I always find in trading and some of the misconceptions that you always see on Twitter about, hey, this is cheap, it's a good opportunity. Well, you got to have, if you're buying the dip, if you're buying weakness in some of these things, you got to have a really good exit plan. Because as I've said before, and I've already said it in this video, that these things, after they really break trend, they can bounce a little bit, but they have a tough time going back to what they were doing when they were trending. Right? It's a very important lesson, I think, of trading, and that's why I cover it in this video, even though there's some more interesting things that went on today. So the internet stocks were the outperformer. Medical device stocks also, after moving down yesterday, and I think part of that was ISRG, which, by the way, had a really nice comeback day today after that ugly looking candle yesterday. Still, the trend is intact and looks pretty good. I didn't really understand why they sold off like that after good earnings, but this, maybe was a buying opportunity. But do you see the difference, right? Even though this wasn't really a dip, good numbers, and you were rewarded if you bought this dip. But the trend's definitely still intact there. So let's talk. I'll move right to some of these names that reported earnings because it's kind of exciting. Snap, this is a name that we put in the TTG Trend Portfolio about less than a month ago. I think about 3 weeks ago we put this thing in. So this thing's up to 72. So really nice. We did do an earnings trade for this. Full disclosure, I also put on an earnings trade. I gave it a shot for Sam Adams. It's one of my it's definitely my go-to beer. So I do participate in that name from time to time. So this is why sometimes options are better than stock, because you can only lose the premium, right? And I only risk $300. When I do something with my because of my personal preferences, and here you can go into the earnings channel. But here was my trade for Snap. They were implying about a 10% move for Snap. So the options, again, it all depends on what the options are implying. They were anticipating a 10% move, right? The market makers. And again, what kind of pulled me into doing a Snap trade and a Sam Adams trade is because they both had pretty good earnings histories, right? I always go with what the trend is with earnings, right? If they continuously beat earnings, that's a name that I may focus on for earnings. So 10% move. What did I do? I went long the July 64.67 call spread just for $1, and I shorted a put spread. Right, so this was zero costs. So I'll make a little bit of money on this. And again, like I said, I have it in the TTG Trend Portfolio, right, which is great for part-time traders. Right, this is a portfolio of 30 names, quality names. We just did a rebalance today for that portfolio, and I added some names. I'll talk about a couple of the ads that I put in there. But really great if you are a part-time trader and don't have time to trade full time. That's why we have the TTG Trend Portfolio. Also, I have Great time running it. All right, and then Sam, yeah, here's the earnings history for Sam Adams, but they had horrible numbers. So this was a small trade for me, but I will lose on this one. So again, always full disclosure of what I got going on, but I think the snap will more than make up for it. And I think for earnings, I'm not going to trade a lot of earnings plays this quarter, but I had a really nice win on Netflix, hopefully win on Snap, and this will be the first loser for Sam Adams, albeit a small one. Wow, look at this thing, 72.60. Woo! And then Twitter too. Twitter is one of those names. So Twitter did come down to 73. I don't trust Twitter on earnings. I'm happy to see, and I don't have any position in Twitter, but I'm happy to see that they did this, because if you look at their earnings history, it's a very difficult name. Sometimes you can get it right. As you can see, there's been a couple quarters, but it's kind of like a 50-50 shot here in Twitter. So interesting. I don't know why, but they're coming in a little bit. They're still up about $2-3. Let's see how that looks on the yeah, I don't see any VPOCs or anything up here, which is a good sign. So, maybe this can kind of get this out of this range. So, and, I hope it stays where it is, because then it might be a name to kind of play after earnings, right? We talked about that. A lot of times, if you are not trading the actual names on earnings, sometimes you could find some great opportunities after the fact. Another name that reported was Skechers, too. This is a name that used to have a decent short interest. Let's see what the short interest is on Skechers now. Oh, it's not that much anymore. It used to be a lot more than that. It used to be like a 15% name a couple of years back. Let's see if I can go. I don't know if they'll let me go that. I don't think they'll let me go that far back. But in any event, the short interest used to be a lot higher in Skechers. But nice move up to 55. All right. So just to talk about a couple trades, from the room. Wow, look at the S&P futures. And by the way, look at the pin action in some of these names. Facebook, which has been slow grind this week from the lows of Monday. Getting it, what a nice boost. Facebook pins is another one that's getting some pin action, up to 75, right? So names that are in similar, obviously similar type business will get a little bit of a boost when you have that going on. All right, so great stuff there. A couple trades that I talked about this morning. Here's my notes from this morning, and just really happy when this stuff works well. But we talked about Autodesk. That was something that caught my eye yesterday. Autodesk was up 2%. I think it's headed to this 315 VPOC up here. Really nice. A name that I put on yesterday. These restaurants, these casual. I don't know if you want to call them casual diners or fast food, but huge move by Domino's. I was long Wing, which closed on the highs. It even got over this VPOC, which is where I took some profits, right around 164. But I positioned in this thing yesterday. Real nice move in Wingstop. So again, just following the trend of what we're seeing in some of these fast food, casual dining type restaurants. Very strong there. A name that I also talked about in yesterday's video, HCNP, closed over 100. I drew these two trend lines in yesterday's video. Really, really nice tight action. So I did trade this one this morning, and I'm still long it. Shop was another one that we thought was setting up pretty well at the end of the day yesterday. Another 1.6% move. Amazon was one that I talked about this morning. I said it's been a little bit sluggish this week, but I said I like the chart pattern and think it gets going, into earnings. So here's what the chart looked like for Amazon, and you could see got one hell of a move. So if you were patient with this thing, you got rewarded up 1.5%. Again, just was kind of an underperformer earlier in the week. It wasn't really performing what the market was doing. It was moving in the right direction like Facebook, but really took off today, and it looks quite constructive going into earnings. I think this thing continues to run into earnings next week. Right? These names, they love to run into earnings, and then they trap everybody out. Right? And then it becomes buy the rumor, sell the news on earnings day. Not always, but a lot of the times. Microsoft had a big day today too, up 1.7%. That's a nice move for Microsoft. Again, another name that loves to run into its earnings quarter. Remember what it did last time, right? Good numbers last time. Made this whole big move into earnings, and then basically flopped. The price action flopped. So again, if you're looking to play these things, you're thinking that you're going to play off of what the earnings quarter is going to be on the day of earnings. A lot of the times, it's not 100%, but a lot of the times it does not work that way. It's buy the rumor over and over and over in trading. If you don't know that principle in trading, you have to learn it. Buy the rumor, sell the news. All right. All right. So what else did we talk about pre-market? Asan was another one. So again, it was a big growth day. This day was up over 5%. Nice little consolidation after a big run. Again, another testament to, I think, why trend trading works so well. Such a big move. And you probably look at this and some people are like, oh, this has gone up too much. I should try to fade this thing. Okay, well, if you faded this anywhere here, you didn't make any money on it. And this is just consolidation in an uptrend, which, again, they usually resolve themselves in the direction of the trend. So very nice there. ASML had some price action continuation. A couple other things that we looked at for the day. Melly and Snow. So I did put on a trade in Melly. I actually added this to the TTG Trend Portfolio. It's got some 1 hour stuff to get through, a little bit of overhead resistance that this has to get through. But I like what's going on in this name, and I've traded this before. It's just very difficult in options, so I took a stock position. All right, so here's what I did for the day. Got and was really trying to sell some things today. It's been 3 days of a rally and a lot of growth areas and more of a risk on trade. So I always on the third day, even some trades that aren't working wonderfully, I use excuse, when I have a nice up day or a couple days of up days, I just kind of look to kind of clean house a little bit with positions. Right. And again, I'll add new positions, sometimes even on like the third day of a rally, but I'm always a net seller. Right. So I always make sure that I take off more things. Datadog was a nice little trade today too. Didn't close on the absolute highs, but able to take a target. A lot of things look, and again, they could do some backing and filling, but Datadog, I see cup and handles all over the place. Cup, a little bit of a handle. Zscaler. Right, cup, again, not exactly perfect, but cup, handle, maybe this starts to extend higher. CrowdStrike got going today, had been sitting under value for about 4 days. So again, another one, a little bit of a cup, handle, and maybe this starts to go out. I did not take any targets in this one. I'm still holding long stock in CrowdStrike. All right, guys, so that's it. I'll kind of keep the video is already 18 minutes long, but very excited with today's price action. And again, it's rewarding when you put in the work. As much as I do on the weekends as well as after hours. And obviously it gets very rewarding when you have weeks like this. So congratulations if you had a good week as well. If you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, where do you go to be a member of Tribeca Trade Group? Right here, you go right to my profile page. You can click on the link, the pinned link, and you can get involved in the Tribeca Trade Group and become a member. I got a lot of questions too in some of these videos about, hey, how do I get this indicator on my charts? Well, it's a proprietary indicator. We've been developing this for 6-7 years at this point. We've been making adjustments all along the way, And it's really, so again, this is this indicator that we have on our charts, volume at price, which gives these phenomenal support and resistance levels, as well as virgin point of controls, is called the MarketWebs. So we don't sell it to outside of Tribeca Trade Group because it's really good, and I only want to share it with members. It's our trading edge. So if you're not familiar with how it works, we provide examples with it all day long because I use it to trade. It's basically I'm using this, and I use some moving averages once we get out of once we get out of range, out of value. I tend to use the moving averages a little bit more. But here's a good example. Somebody asked me about this because I posted this one a couple times on Twitter. DQ, right? I didn't really see any major news on why it went up or down. I know that there was call buying yesterday, but again, gives you a great sense of where to take profits if you were trading this thing. And notice it took out this last VPOC, went a little bit higher, right? See that there's no more behind it, right? So again, there is supply up here, right? That is what these virgin point of controls tell us, is that there is most likely some sellers sitting up here, right? And these things act like magnets, and a lot of times you get this price action, right? First one taken out, a little bit of hesitation, consolidation, and then boom, right up to the second one. After the second one is gone, there's not another one up until 113, which is just too far away. And look at the reversion. Now, this is an extreme example, but we see this over and over. You take out that last VPOC, and you fade a little bit. One other name that I'll kind of leave because I like to provide some setups in these videos, but I'm watching for snow. So again, I'm not going to buy it. Like here is not the place for me to buy it. I would like to see this break out of the value area for the week, and then I can use 270 as a stop, right? And then I could try to target some of these VPOCs up here. But I won't go long this thing until I got confirmation that it's breaking the value area for the week, right? And then once it gets out of this price action, maybe it can continue to trend a little bit. Also the case, right? You got a VPOC up here, 302. Right, so again, that's how we basically look to trade. Very disciplined. We like to take emotion out of the trading and basically just think of it as point A to point B. And if it doesn't make it past point A, then you take the trade off. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.